correct amount of time when you have to stop saying Happy New Year, but since I haven't spoken to most of you, I am going to say Happy New Year to all of you, and I hope that your holidays were simply wonderful. I had a great time. I spent a lot of time with my kids, and that's always a beautiful thing. Before we get into tonight's session, the first thing I want you to know is we may be joined by a gentleman named Steve Martilli. Steve is a new friend and an awesome coach, and he's actually working with me to help me promote these webinars. So I invited him to sit in with us, and he said he might join us just so we can see what it actually sounds like. If he does, I'll introduce him to you, and I'll get him to say a few words, because he's really terrific at what he does. And my mind is just a complete blank, and I know there's supposed to be 4 of us, but I only see 3 of you. I see Greg's on the line, and Mark's on the line, and Maria. Who am I missing, guys?
A woman.
Steve, of course. I'm missing Steve.
And a woman with an unusual name.
Michaela.
Oh, yes, of course. Thank you so much. Michaela is not here, and I'm not quite sure why. And it looks like Steve has just joined us. Is that you, Steve? Steve, are you there?
I'm here. Jeff, can you hear me?
I can now. Great. So I just was mentioning that you might be joining us tonight. To the other members of the group, we're missing one. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Is it Martilli, Steve?
Yeah, that works.
Great. I was telling Greg and Mark and Maria just that you and I recently met. You've become a new friend and a trusted advisor, and that you're helping me to promote the webinars, and that's why you're sitting in tonight. Would you like to take a moment just to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do and how you help people?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. So, yeah, guys, I'm from Canada. I'm about 4 hours north of Toronto. I'm a double-year sales coach, and so what I do is I work with underperforming salespeople that want to streamline some of their sales process and look to double or triple their commissions. And I've been doing that I've been coaching for the last 4 years. I also do some internet marketing and create web products, but my passion's with coaching, and so I work privately one-on-one with clients, and I also work in groups.
Thanks, Stephen. Could you just differentiate, because Steve does not do what I do, which is teach you the skills. He focuses more on some other areas. Would you like to just share a little bit about that, Steve?
Yeah, sure. So what I do is I help clients in 5 ways. First thing I do is I help them clarify their direction. The more focus they get, the more power they gain. The more power they gain, the better results they get. The second thing I do is I help them with set up a daily action plan. Usually I'm working with experienced sales pros, so they're people who already understand the sales process, but I help them refine and get more specifics in terms of measuring metrics on a week-to-week basis. The third thing I do is I help, and this is something I find that's unique what I do, because I don't know a lot of coaches that do it, but I help sales pros work on their self-esteem. And the way I do that is I help them work with their self-image, because your self-image is what creates your self-esteem, and your self-esteem is what creates your personal and business confidence. So that's the third thing I help clients do. And then the fourth thing I do is I help clients release any negative thoughts and limiting beliefs, and as well install positive new beliefs and thoughts. And that's another thing that's a little unique to what I do. It's a lot on the inner game. Works awesome. I've helped one client increase his sales by 300% over a period of 16 months. And a lot of this stuff was because of these inner blocks, limiting beliefs. And then where am I now? Fifth. Yeah, the fifth thing I do is I do a little bit of sales and marketing mastery. So I get into a little bit of online lead generation, sales presentations, working in front of groups. If you're not comfortable working in front of groups, that sort of thing.
Thanks, Steve. And I just like to personally attest that after having a brief conversation with Steve, we met on LinkedIn, and having a brief conversation, Steve put together something to assist me with the way I'm marketing these webinars, and how quickly he put it together, and how professional the finished product looked. Actually, it's not finished, but the just really beginning product look was so far beyond anything I'm able to do myself that it was truly astounding for me. And if anybody's interested in an introduction to Steve, just email me or give me a call, and I'll be glad to give you his contact information. I can't say enough nice things about him in the very short time that I know him. So let's get right to it. Some of what we talked about last time and some of what we'll be covering tonight is really some of what Steve does, so I may ask him for any insights or value added that he has to offer. But if you remember last time, we talked about goals and goal setting. We started working on the inner game of selling. We talked about the need to have specific goals, and that there are certain things which are more likely to help you reach your goals than what most people do. Most people don't have goals at all. Most people that have goals, the goals are simply in their minds, and I'm a firm believer that without having your goal in writing, it's just about the same as not having a goal at all. If you remember, we also talked about how important it is that your goals be specific, because wherever you believe the things that you have come from, whether you believe in your higher power or some type of a deity or what I like to call the universe, it only responds to specificity. So saying that I'm going to earn another $50,000 this year, or I want to earn a lot of money, or I want to be happy, or I want to be thin, is not quite the same as being more specific, where a statement like, I'll earn $200,000 this year by December 31st, 2013, is what that should say. But we started it last month, it is way more likely to get you to where you want to be than simply saying, I'm going to add an additional $50,000 in income this year. We also talked about that in terms of achieving your goals, it's not enough to just set the goal. You have to have a plan to get there. And if you remember, I suggested that you actually want to write out your business plan. Now, when we talk about a business plan, I'm not talking about the type of business plan that you would take to a bank to get financing for some type of an operation, but it's the step by step by step. What is it that I need to do if we're talking about earning that $200,000 by the end of this year? Well, there are a bunch of little things that you're going to need to do between now and December 31st if you're going to achieve that goal of earning $200,000 in income, and I suggest you want to write all those things down. In fact, I believe I sent you a sample business plan that you could model it after. And then once you write all those things down, I'd like you to take a look at how can I break that into even smaller pieces, and you want to keep working on that until you get to little tiny bite-sized chunks that become much easier. And if you remember, I gave you an example that it's rather challenging to lose 100 pounds, but it's not very hard at all to lose 2 or 3 pounds or 5 pounds. So the smaller bites that we can put our business plan into, the greater the likelihood of us first getting started, and second, actually getting to our goal, because it's very easy to take little baby steps to achieve your 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, and 12-month goals. Some of you, and I'm not here to be your father or your, well, I certainly am here to help you be your teacher, but I'm not here to chastise you. Some of you did send me your business plan and your goals, and some of you I sent back saying, wonderful, it's perfect as is, and some I gave some advice. If you have not yet written out your goals and your business plan, December 31st is not the only time to do that. It's only January 8th, and while we've lost a week, there's still time for you to get all that stuff in writing, and whether you do it tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, or any other time while we're working together, you're absolutely positively welcome to send it to me. I will absolutely take a look at it and send it back to you with any constructive criticism or with a note just saying, wow, this is absolutely perfect, let's move forward.
Hey, Jeff, do you think that do we really have to send it, or, I mean,
Absolutely not. It's not a requirement of the program. It's simply, my belief is this. When you have access to some kind of a tool, and I'm hesitating to even call myself a tool, but some type of a resource that you've invested your time and money in, which you are and have, it just makes sense to me to take advantage of that resource in the most ways you possibly can. So do you have to send me your business plan and goals? Absolutely not. What I'm suggesting is that if you do, it allows me to give you any advice that you may need in order to reach them. For example, one of the people who sent their goals was fairly specific, but not quite specific enough. Both the people that sent me their goals did have by-when dates, which I applauded, but in the business plans, I didn't see, well, actually, one of the person who sent goals didn't really send me a business plan, so I would suggest they do. The other person had some pretty good steps about what they were going to do, and all I had to do was say, hey, you're on the right target, let's make it happen. So the answer to your question is no, you do not have to send it to me. You actually don't have to do anything. I'm simply saying that if you're looking for assistance, then I'm here to help you. Not only do I want to, but you've paid me to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. Thank you.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey,
It's Steve Martile. Is it okay if I add something about written goals?
I would love that.
Okay, so guys, there's this. Oh, sorry. Is there girls on the line too, or women?
There is a ladies.
Okay.
But I always ask permission, can I just call you all guys because it's easier? So Maria's a tough New York chick. Do you mind being called a guy, Maria?
I love it.
Ah, there you go.
Okay, good. Okay, so guys, there's this phenomena that's called the illusion of truth. I'm not sure if Jeff teaches it, but it's a fantastic principle, and it applies to written goals. So what the illusion, and you can Wikipedia, what the illusion of truth states is that any time you are exposed to something, either internally you say it to yourself or externally as an environmental thing, like you might look at the mirror and have something written on the mirror that says, I am a super fun and awesome salesperson, or whatever it is. But anytime you look at something either from your environment or internally, like I said, you say it to yourself, over time as you continue to do that, that's the reason why affirmations work, over time as you start doing that 30, 60, 90 days, you start to believe what you're seeing. Doesn't matter if it's from your environment. It could be someone telling you you're a crappy salesperson, you're a terrible person. It could be something your mom said when you were really young. But over time, as you repeat that to yourself, either externally from the news and media and watching TV shows, or something that you say to yourself, you start to believe that that statement is true. It doesn't mean that the statement has to be true when you first start reading it. Over time, what happens, though, is the illusion of truth starts to kick in, and you start to believe that statement. So one thing that, and I know I'm going a little off here, and I know this is not part of Jeff's curriculum, but one thing I encourage my clients to do is take the written goal, write it down on a piece of paper, and put it beside your bed. Every morning, take 2 seconds and read it, and that's it. And I'm telling you that one exercise is, and I won't go into why you got to do it in the morning, but it's very important that you do it first thing in the morning because of the way that your brain waves are in the morning and the state you're in. But if you do that over time, you start to believe that. And if you believe it, you're more likely to take action and make it happen.
Yeah, it's how Howard Stern became the king of all media. Nobody dubbed Howard Stern the king of all media other than Howard Stern. But now anybody who knows Howard Stern, including all media, call him the king of all media. So he kind of created his own reality. And to what Steve just said, if you remember, I did suggest, and my goal-setting worksheet, which each of you had access to, does suggest that you write out each of your goals and put it, I suggest, next to your mirror in the bathroom, because that way you can view it the first thing in the morning and it sets up your day, and also it's typically the last place you go at night. So you read those things, those affirmations or those goals, and they sit in your subconscious all night long, and you can actually dream about them because you set up your mind to think that way. So I'm a big fan of that too.
Awesome.
We also talked about, in terms of goal achievement, that you need to figure out, what am I willing to do to either gain pleasure or avoid pain? Tony Robbins suggests that everything we do. I'm sorry, is anybody else hearing that feedback?
Yeah, terrible, very bad echo.
Yeah, does anybody have us on speakerphone?
Yeah, I do.
Could you take us off, please, and see if that helps? How's that? Nope. Okay, guys, I'm going to hang up just in case it's my phone, or I'm going to call back in 2 seconds and see if we can get rid of this echo. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And it sounds like we're still...
I hear an echo.
I think it may have happened when Michaela got on.
Yeah, Michaela, are you on a cell phone perhaps, or a...
No, I'm on my landline at work.
And you're not on a speakerphone?
No, right now I'm speaking into the receiver, so.
Could you do me a favor and please hang up and call back, because it did not happen until you called in. Would you mind? Thank you.
No problem. Okay, bye.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, it was definitely Michaela's phone.
Definitely.
So, Tony Robbins, who I'm a big fan of. Oops, no, it's still there. Okay, hold on. I'm going to.
You know what? It was probably me. I'm on a laptop. So maybe it's going in one and out the other. So I'll just mute myself for now.
Okay. Let's see. Is that better? Yeah.
That's better.
That seems to be better. Okay, great. Thank you. So Tony Robbins, who I think you know I'm a big fan of, says that we do everything we do in order to either gain pleasure or avoid pain, or both. So in terms of achieving your goals, you have to figure out what pleasure am I going to gain by the achievement of this goal, or what pain am I trying to avoid if I don't achieve the goal. And again, you want to be very specific. So some of you in your business plan, in your goal setting wrote, I won't be happy or I'll be excited, and that's great, but having something that really be painful or really gain you pleasure would be far better. And the example you see on your screen is, if I don't achieve my goal, I'm going to put on a bikini and walk down Fifth Avenue at noon while wearing a sandwich board that says, I didn't reach my sales goal. Now, that may be a bit extreme, but I can tell you that I probably go pretty far to achieve my goal, to avoid having to put on a bikini and walk down Fifth Avenue at noon, because those of you who know me personally and have seen me in person know that I don't look very good at all in a bikini. So I would go pretty far to avoid that pain. So we want to try to attach some gaining of pleasure or avoidance of pain to the achievement or lack of achievement of any goal. And I find if you can do both, it's even better. We also talked about the need to measure. You have to be able to measure your goal. If you can't measure your goal, how do you know if you're making any progress? And almost any goal that's worth setting, you can easily figure out some way to measure. So for example, why do they put you on a scale at Weight Watchers each week? So it's so that you can measure your progress and either applaud yourself and congratulate yourself for having made some progress, or you can realize, oh, I didn't make any progress this week, or worse yet, I slipped back a little bit, but at least you know where you are. So measurement is absolutely essential to goal achievement. And I sent you a very easy-to-use tracking sheet that I use with corporations when I teach them how to prospect by telephone. All you do is put little tick marks in here, and it allows you to see how you're doing. And eventually, over time, especially when it comes to sales activity, you can figure out things like, what am I doing that's working? What am I doing that isn't working? Is anything improving? And eventually what we want to do is we want to get to the point where you know so much information about your activity that you can figure out the exact right amount of activity in order for you to reach your goals. And there's an exact formula that you can use that will tell you, based on what is my goal, what's my average dollar volume per sale, and what is my closing ratio, we can figure out how many cold calls, how many warm calls you need to make, how much time you should be spending on LinkedIn, all of the activities that you're doing on a daily or weekly basis to achieve your goal. We can figure out what that right amount of activity is, but you can't do it unless you have some metrics, unless you're actually tracking your activity. It takes very little time. This is one of those things that people think it's going to take a lot more effort and a lot more time, and I'm already as busy as I can possibly be. But the fact is, it really doesn't take very much time at all, and metrics and knowledge are power.
Jeff?
Yep. Yes?
Jeff, the sheet that, and I've been using your sheet, is this sheet that says week ending, blah, 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 the one that we're seeing on the screen, is this sheet just for new calls, or is it, because I've been making a lot of calls, but I haven't put all of them on the sheet because some of them were not my newbies.
Right. So yes, this is mainly when I work with companies. This is used for cold calls, for cold prospecting. If you're going to use it for other things, you would want a different sheet. So if you're going to use it for tracking LinkedIn discussions, you want to have a separate sheet, and of course you'd have to have different titles. Or another example would be if you're calling referrals. That would be different. You don't want to combine the two activities, because what we're looking for is, if you take a look at the top section, we're looking at how many times did we actually dial the phone, how many times did we get a completed call, which I define as I reached the person I was trying to reach, how many times did I set an appointment, how many voicemails or messages did I leave, and how many times did I get a return call back. So if we're going to track some other type of prospecting activity, you'd want to use a separate sheet. Did I answer your question, Maria?
Yes, but then when we set that appointment, that person's going to go on, in the future, that person's going to go on another kind of sheet, because that person is no longer cold. Is that correct?
Correct. Once you've set the appointment, you're going to put them on your pipeline management spreadsheet, which is something we'll get to, I believe, in session 5 or 6. And I don't want to go into that too much right now because we're already I need to move on and make sure that you get all the information from tonight's session. But yes, there will be another place where you put them once you set the appointment. This is simply about tracking your activity so that you can know whether or not you're doing the right amount of activity and whether or not you're going to hit your goal. Because the fact is, and I've done this with client after client after client, the right amount of activity produces the right results. As a sales manager, if I was your sales manager, Maria, I would never manage your results. I'm always interested in your results, but what I'm going to try very hard to get to as quickly as possible is to figure out the right amount of activity, because there is a formula that will show us that if you do the right amount of activity each and every day and each and every week, you will end up with that amount of money that you're looking to get. Did I answer your question?
Yes, and what I'm understanding is that this sheet is for cold, and for when the people who are cold call me back and then I call them again, it's still considered cold.
Correct. So the important thing to remember where most people fall down on using this particular sheet is the definition of a completed call. A completed call is when you actually speak to the person that you were trying to speak with. The only other time you would call it a completed call is if you speak to someone's assistant and they can set an appointment for you. So it's a completed call. If I'm trying to reach you, Maria, and I call you and I get you on the phone, it's a completed call. It would be a dial and a completed call.
No matter what you say to me, even if you say to me no, yes, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Absolutely correct. Doesn't matter what I say or what you say. If I got through to you, it's a completed call, and that's an important statistic for me to know. I want to figure out my ratios. I want to figure out my ratio of dials to completed calls, and then my ratio of completed calls to appointments. Because
even if they say call me in a month?
I don't care what they say. It's still a completed call as long as I spoke with you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, good. But most people think sales is a numbers game, and to a certain extent it is, but really sales is a ratios game, and when you can understand your ratios, you have great power. Greg is saying, more often than not, my cold calls are more of showing up somewhere than actually using the phone. Yes, absolutely, Greg. So I got it. So you're not making calls on the phone. You're doing what we would call door knocking as cold calls, yes? And I think Greg actually muted his laptop. Exactly, he says. Good. Yes. So all you have to do is take this sheet, and if I didn't send it to you, Greg, just let me know and I'll send it to you. I think I sent it to everybody last time. It's just an Excel spreadsheet, so you can change the titles at the top to reflect anything. So doors knocked on, or clients visited cold, or whatever else you want to call it. But yes, I would absolutely be tracking how many times you walk in on somebody unannounced and how many times they actually will take the time to meet with you or set an appointment to meet with you, which I know in your industry, more often than not, you're really looking to try to have a conversation right then. And Mark is asking to send it again, so I'll just send it to everybody when we're done tonight. Okay, we're going to move on now. We talked a little bit about accountability and that you can coach yourself to success, but having a coach typically helps, works better for most of us because, and the example I use is me, I will lie to myself all day long, but I won't lie to you. I'll make promises to myself and break them all day long, but I won't break my promise to you unless absolutely positively necessary. And man, I'm telling you, I'll probably break my own arm before I'll break my promise to you. So having somebody that you make promises to, that you tell, here's what I'm going to do, and somebody who will absolutely let you check in with them and hold you accountable is a great thing to have. Even though I wrote a book called How to Be Your Own Coach, we all need someone, whether we call them a coach or anything else, who will give us that kick in the rear end when we need it, put their arm around us when we need a shoulder to cry on, and do all the things that a good coach does. I mentioned that usually somebody who's too close to us is not a good choice, like our husband or wife, a friend, a lover, something like that, because they will be too soft on us. And in a coach, while you don't necessarily want a drill sergeant, you do want somebody who will kick you in the butt when you need him. So that's where we left off last time, and now I want to continue with the inner game of selling, and hopefully by the end of tonight's session we'll also get to a little bit of actual conversational selling skills, and then next time we're going to dive into it deeply. Sales is a completely mental game. We get paid in sales for using our mind and using our voice, which is why many people fall into the career of sales. Almost nobody goes to college thinking, I can't wait to get out and be a salesperson. Most of us fall into it by mistake, and when we fall into it by mistake, it's because we can't find a job doing whatever else we studied for, and, well, sales sounds like a kind of easy career because all I have to do is talk. Now, there's more than just talking, but the truth is it is mostly a mental game, and I believe that sales is mostly psychology. Mark, who is a psychologist by trade, yes? Not psychiatrist, psychologist, right?
Psychologist, yes.
Right, so he could probably speak to this more than I can, but having studied a little bit about psychology and having observed people in selling situations for 40 years, I believe that sales is mostly psychology. One of the things that we have to understand in terms of the inner game of selling is that not everybody is going to say yes to us. And that's not easy for most of us, especially for those of us who don't have the strong ego who can take it as what it really means, which is just simply, no, I'm not buying from you, but I still like you. Most sales trainers, most sales coaches will tell you not to take it personally when somebody hangs up on you, when somebody won't give you an appointment, or when somebody simply won't buy from you. And I'm here to tell you this. It is personal. And it's very difficult to not take it personally when somebody hangs up on you, when somebody says no to you, or when somebody won't buy from you. I take it personally. Now, I think the key is to understand that while it is personal, it's not meant to offend you. While it is personal, it really should not have too much of an effect on your day, your week, your month, or your sales year. Some people take each hang-up, each no very personally, and my suggestion is that if you speak to somebody on the phone or if you meet with somebody in person and you get very disturbing news, your goal should be to shake it off as quickly as you possibly can. Realize that whatever their reasons were for being rude, hanging up, not giving you an appointment, not giving you a sale, might have nothing to do with you, even though you are the person they're saying no to. And another thing that I want you to start doing is tracking the number of no's it takes to get to a yes. Now, almost every sales seminar, almost every sales book, almost every sales trainer I've ever listened to seems to have this number in their head, and they'll teach you that it takes 6 no's to get to yes. I've heard that way more times than I could possibly count over the last 4 decades. The trouble with that is I've never seen a bit of proof. I've never seen a study that says it takes 6 no's to get to yes, and I can tell you that in my personal experience that if somebody tells me no 6 times, they don't typically turn around and then say yes because I have the most brilliant rebuttals in the world to overcome any objection they have. And as I think I mentioned last time, I often relate sales to dating because I think they're very similar. So if I go into a bar and ask a beautiful woman if I can buy her a drink once, and she says no, and I say, well, come on, can't I? It's just a drink, and she says no twice, I doubt that if I ask her 6 times that she's actually going to say, okay, buy me a drink. In fact, what I suspect is she's going to call over the bouncer and I'm going to be escorted out. So you do have to understand that it will take a certain number of no's to get to yes, but I think of that more in terms of how many prospects do I have to be speaking with in order to get one yes, rather than how many times do I have to hear no from a particular prospect in order to get to a yes. In fact, when we dive deeply into the conversational selling skills, you'll see that my philosophy is I want to uncover as many objections, if not all objections, that I possibly can before I even ask you for your business, because I don't want to get you to have a no in your mind. Here's my thinking. If I ask you to buy from me and you say no, you are deeply embedded in that no. You've got a real resistance to yes for whatever your reason is, and if I'm going to somehow get you to buy, I'm going to be fighting an uphill battle. And I'm not a big fan of fighting uphill battles. So my preference is to realize that sometimes people will say no, and sometimes you can help them change their mind to yes. And notice I didn't say convince them. You'll help them change their mind, and it'll become a yes. But typically it's not 6 no's and then a yes. And I want you to think more in terms of how many prospects do I need to tell me no until one of them will tell me yes. In other words, what is my actual closing ratio? How many first appointments do I have to go on? How many new prospects do I have to meet with until one of them will say yes? And this is a very personal number. There's no one general number that's right or wrong for any person or any industry. Some people have a 10% closing ratio, meaning that out of every 10 new prospects they meet, one will actually buy. Some people close 30%, 40%. I've met a lot of salespeople that tell me they close more than 50%. However, I have yet to have one that can actually prove it to me. But if you close 60% of the time, great. So that means you're going to hear no 4 times out of every 10 and yes 6. Now, why is that an important number to know? Well, because it helps you with your own psychology. It helps you when you're out there selling. And if you know, let's just say you do have that 60% closing ratio. Well, if the first 4 people you see this week tell you no, you should be excited and go, wow, the next one's probably going to say yes because that's the way my numbers work out. So it's very important to know not only how many dials to get an appointment or dials to get a contact, but also how many no's equals a yes for you in particular. The other thing I want you to consider is, are you an optimist or are you a pessimist? And I'm going to suggest that you want to be, that what you want to be when it comes to selling is pessimistically optimistic. Now, here's what I mean by that. Most of us in sales are wildly fanatic optimists. And the reason I suggest that is because you have to be optimistic in order to do sales successfully. The reason you have to be an optimist is because most of us do not close more than 50% of the people we meet with, which means that more than half the time when we ask people to buy from us, they're going to tell us no. Now, if you are not optimistic that things are going to work out for you, then that more than 50% of the people we meet with telling us no tends to beat us down. But here's why I want you to be a pessimistic optimist. That same optimism that allows us to do our job in sales and survive psychologically because we think everything is going to work out also blinds us to when people tell us no. And we end up chasing every prospect equally and chasing every prospect almost forever sometimes, even though they have no intention of buying. The problem here is that prospects who don't want to do business with us often do not use the word no. They will not say, sorry, Greg, I'm not buying from you. Mark, there's no way I'm using your services. It's just not going to happen. It would be lovely if they all were that straightforward with us, but what they do is they do things like not return our calls, not return our emails, not set another meeting with us. Most of the time, those things actually mean, I've decided not to do business with you, but I just don't want to say it to you because I don't want to offend you. I don't want to hurt your feelings. So I want you to be pessimistically optimistic in terms of your sales, realizing that more people are going to say no and that you do want to be positive about it, but I want you to be listening for the no that is often behind whatever else they're saying. I also want you to think about 3 areas: focus, positivity, and conviction. And the first thing is I want you to consistently focus on your goal. All great salespeople are goal-oriented, and they have the outstanding ability to focus. Some of the best books that I've ever read on success and wealth are books like Think and Grow Rich or The Science of Getting Rich or As a Man Thinketh. There's a million more, and I'll bet Steve could probably share 10 more titles off the top of his head. But all of these books share one common thread, and that is that people have a consistent focus. People who have a consistent focus on their goal are far more likely to reach it than those who don't. And that's what Steve was talking about when he said your goals should be sitting next to your bed so you can read them first thing in the morning. And what I mean when I say you should have them posted next to your mirror in your bathroom so that you can see them first thing in the morning and the last thing at night. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only time you should be looking. In fact, I'd love it if every time you take a little break that you actually pull out your goals and take a look at them. The more you're focused on the goals you're trying to reach, the greater the likelihood of you taking the actions to get there and actually achieving them. And I think I shared with you that one of the things I believe in is called a vision board. And I'm staring at it right now in my office, and there are pictures of huge stacks of $100 bills. There's a picture of a gorgeous beach house right off the beach. And most of you know I live a block from the ocean, but one of my goals is to have the first house on the beach. There's a picture of a check for $57 million from the Universal Bank that I'm looking to manifest, all kinds of things like that. So the more you're focused on the things you're trying to attract, the greater the likelihood of you actually getting them. And I believe that any tools that you can use to help you focus on your goals is a good thing, and I think pictures are a great way because most of us see things in pictures anyway. You have to have a laser-like focus on your daily activity. I just spoke a few moments ago about that the right amount of activity will bring you the right results. So top salespeople focus like a laser on doing their daily activity and not worrying about anything else. And again, I'm as focused as you are on making money and having wonderful results. And for me, results show up like people signing up for my webinar, people hiring me to be a consultant, people hiring me to train them, people hiring me to coach them. That's the results. And certainly I'm interested in all those things, but I know that if I just make enough calls, spend enough time on LinkedIn, and do all the other activities that I do on a daily basis in order to be successful, that I can't help but be successful. I think it's also to be wise when it comes to distractions. It's one of the reasons that I like to work from a home office, and not everybody has that luxury. But I can tell you that I can accomplish more in 3 hours from a home office than I ever could in 8 hours working in an office with other people, because it's the nature of human beings when they're together to take an occasional break and have a chat. And while they're taking their break, you may be working, but when they come over and say, hey, Mark, did you see American Idol last night? The tendency is to be friendly, take your little break too, have your chat, but each of those adds up. I'm often asked, isn't it incredibly challenging to work from home? And the answer for me is no, because I have way less distractions here. Yes, my refrigerator is here, my TV is here, but they're certainly not sitting in my office with me, and I treat my office just as if I was in an office someplace else without all the distractions that could come from home. About the only distraction is the dog who barks about every 10 minutes when an air molecule flies by, but I've learned to tune her out. So you really want to get that focus so that even anything that's outside of your little workspace is almost non-existent. I think I also mentioned last time, but I'll just cover it again briefly. It's very, very important to build little breaks into your day. And I believe I might have recommended a great book to you called The Power of Full Engagement. You cannot work at 100% effort 100% of the time. Your body and your mind both need a break occasionally. And if you read that book, you'll find out that the two sports psychologists who wrote it suggest that every 90 to 120 minutes, your body and your brain need at least a 5 to 10 minute break. That doesn't mean it's time to take a half hour or an hour break every 90 to 120 minutes, but you do want to build little breaks into your day, and people who do that tend to be far more successful than people who just work full out all the time. The other thing about focus that I want you to think about in terms of selling, and this is about as crucial as it gets, is when you're dealing with prospects or you're dealing with your customers, it's crucial that you're focused 100% on them. And when we talk about conversational selling skills, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but one of your goals is to make the people that you're dealing with feel special. In fact, the clients and prospects that you're speaking with should feel like the most important person in the universe when you're speaking with them. Now, the truth for me is there's never a moment when a prospect or a client is more important than my children. But there's really nobody else who's more important to me than my clients when I'm sitting with them, or my prospects when I'm sitting with them. Like the 4 of you right now and the 5 of you with Steve, you're the most important people in my world right now other than Avery, Sky, and Zach, my kids. And that's first of all, it's true, and it's also the way I want you to feel. When you show people that they're special, that they're important to you, it makes them feel good, and when you don't, it makes them feel the opposite. It engenders a lack of rapport with you. It engenders a lack of trust, and if people buy from people who they like and people that they trust, then when you're not focused on them, then you're not gaining the trust and likability that you're looking for. And it's very easy to be distracted by other stuff like your cell phone vibrating in your suit jacket pocket because you didn't turn it off when you're speaking to a prospect, or listening to the woodpecker pecking the tree outside the window and looking at that instead of actually dealing with your prospect. So in terms of focus, those are the things I want you to remember when you're talking about selling. In terms of positive, I think it's crucial in sales to have a positive attitude. Now, there's a lot of talk about positive attitude, and there has been for a long time, and I don't believe positive attitude will take you everywhere, but I do think it's important. I have a friend who wrote a book called, I just forgot the name of the book. It's something about positive attitude. Oh, attitude is everything. Well, I don't believe attitude is everything, but I do believe it's important. And it's important in sales especially because nobody wants to deal with a mope. And it's very easy, especially right now, to become a mope, mainly because there's a lot of, and I don't know any other word to use, a lot of crap going on in the world. You know, kids getting killed, economy a shambles. There's all kinds of bad stuff. I'm a big fan of listening to as little TV or radio news as you possibly can. Same thing with reading it on the internet. I spend very little time being up to date on the news. And I promise I'm about as up to date as you are, and I don't care if you're spending 8 hours a day watching the news, but what I don't want to hear is all the negatives that the news uses to suck us in. Tony Robbins himself, who I consider the greatest motivational speaker that I've certainly ever seen, and he may be the greatest motivational speaker of all time, but I believe Tony Robbins himself could not stay positive if he's listening to the news, watching CNN or Fox or whatever channel you like all day long, reading the newspapers constantly. I suggest you want to get enough to be informed and move on, and you want to avoid negatives as much as you possibly can, and that includes the people in your life, the people who you work with. If you've got office gossips, if you've got a spouse that's just constantly negative, do whatever you need to do to either get rid of them or tune them out, because sales needs positivity. I also suggest that you use your windshield time to reinforce positive behaviors. Now, I think I've shared with at least some of you, I happen to be a big fan of Howard Stern. I know I mentioned it before, and I know a lot of people don't like him at all, but I happen to like Howard very much. However, when I'm in the car, riding to appointments or riding to meetings or wherever I'm going, I don't listen to Howard Stern all the time, even though he's on 24 hours a day. And the reason is because Howard Stern does not put any money in my pocket. And if you're a Mets fan, you know, the Mets aren't putting any money in your pocket either. And if you want to listen to sports, that's okay. But what I'd like you to do is at least take some windshield time and maybe put in a book on tape on selling or motivation or something else like that. Or this is where I love Tony Robbins. Buy some of Tony's CDs or anybody else's and listen. Invest that time wisely to surround yourself with positivity, because your mind can only hold so much stuff. It's either going to be filled with negative or positive or some combination, but it can't hold more than it's actually allowed to. So the more positive stuff we can force in there, the less space there is for negativity. I also suggest that part of the inner game of selling is setting up your day. And what I mean by that is, and this may sound a little stupid, I know it feels a little stupid when I do it, but there's a moment when you're first waking up, and I think you all know what I'm talking about. There's that moment where you're going from sleep to you're not quite awake, but you're almost awake, and you realize you're just about to open your eyes. That's what I'm talking about, that specific moment. At that moment where I realize I'm just about to open my eyes and start my day, I put a smile on my face. And I'm not talking about in my mind. I'm talking about I physically put a smile on my face. And I'm actually doing it right now. You can probably hear it in my voice. And I know I look stupid, and luckily I'm not looking in the mirror right now, but I suggest that putting a smile on your face is a great way to start the day. And I also suggest that that's a great time to start saying some positive things to yourself, which many people call affirmations, and it's certainly what I call them, and other people have different names for them. But I think it's a great time to set up your day positively, and this does not have to take a half an hour. I'm talking about you put a smile on your face, and you just say a few words to yourself like, today is going to be an outstanding day. I'm going to help lots of clients make money today. Money is going to come to me today, or whatever other words you want to use, but I believe it's crucial to set up your day positively, as opposed to the way many people, that you may be one of them, or certainly you probably know some people, who wake up and go, oh, I can't believe I have to go to work again today. Oh, I can't believe fill in the blank. I can't believe I'm still married to him. I can't believe whatever their negative talk is, that's also going to set up your day. So I think it's a conscious choice that each of us needs to make. And if you want to be successful in sales, you're far more likely to do that by setting up your day positively. And the next bullet point is positive self-talk. It was pointed out to me, about, I'm going to say about 7 or 8 years ago, by somebody who I respect and trust implicitly. Mark, you know Ellen Volpe. She said, you know, you say a lot of negative things about yourself. She said this to me. And she said, you know, it kind of comes across as self-deprecating humor, but don't you realize that every time you call yourself an idiot or say something like, I'm such a dope or I'm so stupid, that your brain is listening? And the truth is, I firmly believe that your brain is listening to everything you say, and Steve actually touched on that too. So when you constantly tell yourself, I'm such a klutz, or I'm so stupid, or I'm so fat, or I'm so whatever, your brain is listening and will help you take the actions to make sure that comes true. And the reverse is also true. When you say positive things about yourself, you start to believe them, and you start to act in a manner that's consistent with those. It's one of the reasons why if you ever ask me how I am, the words you're going to hear is, I'm outstanding. Now, is the truth I'm always outstanding every second of every day? Of course not. But I've found over the years, and this again was taught to me by my friend Tony Robbins, that the more I say I'm outstanding, the more outstanding my life becomes. I also believe I touched on this briefly last time, but I think part of the inner game of selling has got to be visualization. I'm a big fan of creative visualization. I believe you need to regularly close your eyes and visualize yourself being successful. Visualize yourself meeting with new prospects and them being happy to meet you and shaking your hand with a big smile on their face and a big smile on yours, and seeing the picture of them opening up to you freely and giving you all the information you're looking for and shaking your hand again and signing contracts and handing you checks or credit cards or whatever it is that you take. You want to visualize your own success. It's part of the inner game of selling. And, of course, we talked a little bit about affirmations. Saying positive things to yourself affirms in your mind that those positive things exist, are true, and are either present or will be coming into your life. We'll come to some suggested affirmations in a second, but the last point was conviction. You have got to have an absolute, positive, 100% dead-on conviction that what you have to offer is of value to the people you are trying to sell. If at any point you don't believe that what you are offering to the people that you're trying to sell is valuable, there's no other word than value, to their lives, to their world, to their company, to their business, then you need to go find something else to sell. So if you are somebody who trains people to be better speakers by bringing Broadway to the boardroom, as Maria does, and teaching them how to be better presenters because she's been a Broadway actress and she knows how to project herself and how to have that air of confidence and all the other things that Maria brings to the table, well, if she didn't believe that that was of value, then I don't care how great she is at it, she's not going to be able to sell it. You have to believe that what you have to offer is incredibly valuable, and you have to understand exactly what it is that you bring to the table. And I'm going to suggest that at some point it would be a useful exercise for you to write down all the positive things that you bring to the table. I'd also suggest you want to ask others, especially if you have current clients. I found that current and past clients are a great source of market research. They're a great source of information. And this was suggested to me by a guy who's in marketing, and it had never occurred to me, but he said, call your current clients and ask them why they do business with you. Come right out and say, hey, I'm curious. I really appreciate your business, and I'm curious about something. Why do you do business with me? If you're anything like me, you'll find that the answers may be not what you thought they were. You have one idea in your mind of why people do business with you, but their clients have a different idea of why they do business with you. And of course, while it's important for you to have an idea of why people do business with you, it's far more valuable to you as a salesperson to know why people really do business with you. Because once you understand why people are doing business with you, you can use those points in your sales pitch when you're talking to new prospective clients. I'm reading that next sentence, and even I don't understand. Understand who people want what you got. It should have been, who are the people who want what you've got? If you have conviction that you've got a valuable service, well, then you have to understand and figure out who are the people who want what you've got. In other words, who is my prospect? You have to understand what the competition is doing, what type of competition exists, and how do they differentiate themselves from you, and more importantly, how can you differentiate yourself from them? And you also have to have the conviction that you're doing them a service. One of the things I firmly believe is that if I don't politely persist with prospects until they tell me to get lost or I feel I'm wasting my time, I'm actually doing them a disservice. So obviously I'm doing them a service when they hire me. I'm going to give them value for their money. In fact, I'm going to do my best to give them way more value than they expect. But I firmly also believe that if I choose to not call you as a prospect, or if I give up too easily, I'm actually doing you a disservice. I haven't helped you get the product or service that we both believe you need. So when you have the true conviction that what you're doing brings value, you're actually doing people a disservice when you don't sell them, when you don't contact them, when you don't persist enough until it's time to stop. Here are a couple of affirmations, and you guys, of course, will have access to this hopefully no later than tomorrow. I'll send you an email when the recording is ready for you to view. These are just a few of the zillions of affirmations you might choose to use to start out your day or as you go through your day. One of the things I do is not only start out my day with affirmations, but I tend to, as long as I'm not working somewhere, I walk my dog down to the beach, usually about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I love to stare at the ocean because for me the ocean is a source of great power, and I, again, do my affirmations. In fact, I'm a big fan of doing your affirmations first thing in the morning and maybe about 6 o'clock or just before you go to bed to, again, implant them in your mind so that your sleep time is also having things like tomorrow is going to be a fantastic day, and I'm a trusted advisor, or there's a fabulous abundance of money in the world, and every day it flows towards me in massive amounts. Steve, do you have any particular ones that you recommend?
To be honest, can you hear me okay, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay, just unmuted myself. There's one that I picked up from John Kehoe, which is, I don't know if anyone knows him, but you can Google him too. He's a mind power specialist, and he works with sales and training companies as well. And I picked it up from him. He's actually the original writer of Mind Power into the 21st Century in the 70s. And what I picked up this from one of his books, and I used it with one of my sales guys, and he just went nuts with it. It is lots of sales today, and that's it. But just like repeat that for 2 to 3 minutes in the morning when you wake up. Lots of sales today. I love it. Thanks, Steve. Yeah. So I want you to. I recommend that you make a list if you have to. If you haven't memorized them yet, but write down a bunch of affirmations. You can actually look at your list while you're saying them until you don't need it anymore. But I think it's a great way to set yourself up positively and to start attracting the things to you that you want, like sales, like clients, like prospects, like money. Another thing that's important is time management. I'm going to just touch on this very briefly. One of the things that I do when I'm working with a large group of salespeople is to start the day, I'll typically go around the room and ask them what their biggest sales challenge is. I'll usually put a disclaimer on that. I'll say, tell me what your biggest sales challenge is, but if your sales challenge is your manager, please don't say that out loud because your manager is sitting in the back of the room and I can't help you with that. But when I go around the room, typically 50% of the salespeople in every audience tell me that time management is their biggest challenge. And for most of us, time management is a big challenge. The fact is you can't really manage time because there are only 24 hours and and figure out how many minutes in every single day and days in a week, and you can't manage those hours because they are what they are. But what you can do is use them to your best advantage. I think I've already shared with you the concept of prime selling time. Prime selling time are those hours that you can actually be sitting or standing in front of clients or speaking with them on the phone, clients or prospects. And that's typically the hours of maybe 9 to 5, perhaps 8 to 6. It's unlikely that any of us is going to be doing much selling at 11 p.m., so that would not be considered prime selling time. But from a time management standpoint, what I suggest you do is devote as much selling as possible during prime selling time and try to do everything else that is not client-facing at other times, before hours, after hours, on weekends. Now, I'm saying that also with a disclaimer. I also want you to enjoy your life. I do not want you working 24 hours a day or all your waking hours. And for those of us who do work from home, there's a great tendency to be sitting at your desk from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep. I think it's crucial that you do set some limits. But if possible, I'd like you to devote as much time as you possibly can during prime selling time to being in front of prospects, whether it's on the phone or in person. I think it's important to make promises to yourself if you're going to use your time effectively, and what I mean by that is set appointments. Now, in terms of selling, there are 4 things which I suggest have got to go on your calendar. The first one is appointments.
Well, when you've got appointments where you're going to be speaking to people on the phone or meeting with them in person, that's the first thing that must go on your calendar because you've got to be at certain places at certain times. The second thing that has to go on your calendar to use your time effectively for a salesperson is the surrounding time around appointments. And what I mean by that is before you go on a meeting or before you get on a phone call, there's some research that you can do to learn as much as you can about a prospect or a company, and that takes a little bit of time. After you go on a meeting, there are things that you have to do, like do more research or possibly write a proposal or the 8 million other things that have to happen perhaps before another meeting. So that has to go on your calendar too, because if you don't put those things on your calendar, then what happens is you look at your calendar in the morning and you go, oh my goodness, I've got to be at XYZ company at 9 o'clock with a proposal and I haven't written it yet. So you want to put the supporting time around appointments on your calendar. The third thing is you want to put personal time on your calendar. And what I mean by that is, as salespeople, we tend to do things during the day that are not sales related, simply because we can, and it's convenient. It's not putting money in our pocket, but sometimes you run to the dry cleaners, you get a haircut, or you do whatever you have to do. I'm not suggesting you should be doing those things during prime selling time, but if you're going to, put those on your calendar so that you're honest with yourself about where your time is going. And the fourth thing that I think has got to go on your calendar is prospecting time. I believe you need to devote a certain amount of time each day to prospecting because consistent prospecting leads to a consistent paycheck. I also suggest that in order to use time effectively, you want to assign the right amount of time to each of the items on your calendar. And the example I'll give you is when I write a proposal, it takes 20 minutes. So when I'm going to write a proposal sometime between a first and a second meeting, I somewhere in between those two meetings put it on my calendar and I assign 20 minutes to it. The game I play with myself is that if I haven't finished my proposal in 20 minutes, because that's how long it takes me, it's the right amount of time for me, if I haven't finished the proposal, I have to move on to the next thing on my calendar, and I now owe myself that at some later time, like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Now, the reason I like this game is because if you're anything like me and you're easily distracted, if you've got shiny object syndrome, then it doesn't take too many times of finishing up a proposal at 9 or 10 o'clock at night till you start saying to yourself, you know what, maybe I need to be a little bit more focused during the day because I'd rather be, I don't know, watching Family Guy at 9 o'clock at night or talking to my wife or girlfriend or whoever else you're hanging out with rather than finishing proposals. So it tends to help to make you more focused during the time that you're actually working if you assign a right amount of time and then stick to it. Another incredibly useful thing that I want you to start doing if you're not already doing it. One of the very last things I'd like you to do each day before you shut down your computer or before you stop working is plan tomorrow. I've observed salesperson after salesperson who walks into their job at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning and says something like, okay, what am I going to do today? I'd like you to walk in and be effective immediately. And the only way you can do that is if you have a plan. So I'm going to suggest you want to make a list of everything that you need to accomplish tomorrow, and then make a second list of the 6 most important things that you absolutely positively have to get to, and then put those in priority order. That way, when you come in the morning, you can sit down and be effective immediately rather than wasting the first 15, 20, or 30 minutes or more trying to figure out how you're going to use your day. Any questions on anything we've covered so far?
Jeff, it's Maria.
Hey.
Hi, I love this. This is great.
Good.
You're talking about little breaks every 90 minutes. Minutes. What can you do in 5 minutes?
You can smoke a cigarette if you do, and I certainly don't suggest you do, and I don't smoke, but you can take a walk around the block. You can call a friend. You can put on your iPod and listen to one song. You can go to the bathroom. You can do whatever you need to do. I have a little kind of exercise machine that allows you to run very fast in place, and you only do it for a minute at a time. It's called burst training, and the exercise machine is called an Exciser. So I'll get up, I'll walk over to my Exciser, which takes about 15 seconds to get there. I'll do my minute of burst training. I'll have a little drink. I'll probably do a couple of push-ups, and that'll give me 3 to 4 minutes. It gets my blood flowing. I've done something positive for myself, and my body's taken that little break that I need. What I'm not suggesting is that you take a half an hour or hour break every 90 to 120 minutes. Now, you may want to take that that long of a break at some point during the day, but I don't think you need that every 90 to 120 minutes, but you can't work effectively full out 100% of the time.
So if I set my alarm every 90 minutes and get up for 5 minutes and do something, then I'm good. Set my alarm every 90 minutes.
Well, you're already good, Maria, but I suggest that will make you more productive, yes.
Okay, I'm doing it.
Good. Let me know how it goes, will you?
I will.
Thank you. Any other questions?
The worksheet, hi, this is Michaela. The worksheet that you gave us, I know it's from back in the beginning of the of your training session. You talked about calls. Can we also include emails? I mean, would those qualify, or would you have the same system?
Are you talking about this one?
Um,
Are you looking at the screen?
yes.
Okay. Is that the sheet you're talking about?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, yes, this particular sheet does not have a space for emails on it, but you could either add on a column or you could just change the headings for emails. If you're doing email marketing, absolutely. And I would strongly urge you to track anything that you're doing in terms of prospecting in order to see, is it being effective? Is it an effective use of your time? So yes, absolutely, positively, I would track anything that you're doing, emails, LinkedIn, any type of social media, anything that you're doing in order to bring in prospects, new prospects, or get more appointments is something that you should be tracking, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Before we move on, it's 6:30. We've got another half an hour, and I want to devote as much time as we need to coaching you on situations that you're currently working on. But I also want to just quickly preview the sales process, because next week we're going to take a deep dive right into actual selling. Is there anybody who has selling situations that they'd like to talk about tonight? I don't need to know what they are right now, but is there anybody who does? If so, I want to make sure I leave enough time to do coaching. So I'll just ask each of you. Mark, any situations that you'd like to discuss tonight?
Well, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Greg, how about you? Okay. Greg, I'm not sure if you're still there, but I see you're online, but I can't hear you. So, Michaela, do you have any sales situations that you'd like to talk about tonight and get coaching on?
Yes, I always have one. Thank you.
You do? Okay, good. And Maria, how about you?
Yeah, I got that return phone call with a big client on Friday. It's going to be a phone call follow-up.
Good. Okay, so here's what we'll do. I'm going to spend maybe just the next 10 minutes just briefly previewing conversational selling skills, and then we'll devote the final 20 minutes to coaching. That should give 5 minutes for each of you, which should be good. So right now what you're looking at is what the typical sales process looks like. This is what almost every training company will teach you, that sales is a 4-step process. And what these 4 boxes stand for are the 4 steps of the sales process. The first one, the O, stands for open. When you're meeting with somebody for the first time, you have to open the meeting somehow. And the way the typical salesperson opens their first meeting is by saying something stupid, as far as I'm concerned, like, how about those Mets, or nice weather we're having, or, oh, you wear glasses, I wear glasses too, or, oh, cute kids, even though they look like gorillas, because there's a picture of the family on the person's desk, or they make some stupid comment to get the conversation going and hope that that's going to establish rapport. The fact is, it does not establish rapport. And there's a better way to do it. And I'm going to share that with you, certainly, how I suggest you do it next time. But here's the thing. If you have nothing better than how about those Mets or nice weather we're having, then you have to use that, because you cannot walk into a sales meeting and just get down to business. That's what your prospect wants. That's what you'd like to do too, but the fact is that people buy from people that they like and people that they trust, and the only way to start to establish a relationship and develop that relationship is by having some type of conversation up front. Believe me, I'd love to walk into every prospect and just say, let me tell you why Jeff Goldberg & Associates is the training company that you want to use, except that doesn't work very well. So I will share with you a better way, but I just need you to be aware of how it's typically done. The I in the second box stands for information gathering. Now, certainly I'm a big fan of information gathering, and I'm here to tell you that information gathering is the most important part of the sales process by far. The other two boxes stand for present and close. Most salespeople believe that if you're a great presenter and a strong closer, you'll be able to get lots of business. I would suggest that that's not true. That in fact, what you're really looking to do is be a great question asker. In fact, the best salespeople always have three characteristics. And it's not that they're great presenters, and it's not that they're strong closers. Sometimes they're great presenters, and sometimes they're strong closers. But the best salespeople are always three things. The first thing is they're the best question askers. The best salespeople are always the best question askers or interviewers. The second thing the best salespeople are is they're always the best listeners. They have outstanding listening skills, and we're certainly going to talk about that too. And the third thing is they're great storytellers. They have excellent storytelling skills, and if you think about any salesperson that you respect, any great salesperson that you go, oh my God, that guy could sell anything, or that woman's the queen of sales, any of them, just think about them for a moment, and I promise you, you will be going, oh yeah, that person does tell great stories. And the stories don't necessarily have to just be about selling. They could be about anything. Great salespeople are always great storytellers, and the reason they need to be is because storytelling has to be part of presenting, and we're certainly going to cover how to do that too. Presenting, of course, is important. You do have to give your presentation, and you do have to ask for the business, but there are tips and tools and strategies I'm going to be sharing with you over the next session or two that are going to give you exactly what you need to do that. And I know that's what most of you believe you came here for. I think that the work we did last time and the work we've done tonight is setting us up for the rest of the sessions. And I can tell you from experience that in the other times I've run this program, at the end of every session, I hear, oh, this was the best session. Oh, no, this was the best session. Oh, no, it keeps getting better and better. So I promise that if you've been sitting in your chair itching for me to get to actual selling skills, I promise we're almost there. Whoops. So I don't teach a 4-step process for selling, even though 4 steps is fine, 10 steps is fine, 8 steps is fine. I'm going to share with you a 6-step process for selling. We're still going to do opening and rapport building in step number 1. We're going to gather information in step number 2, and I'm going to share with you why I think it's the most important part as well as exactly how to do it. We're going to insert another step, which is called the confirmation or validation or verification step, where we're going to verify that the information that we think we gathered is actually correct. We're going to talk about how do you give a good presentation, what are the components of a good presentation, and how do I make sure that I do all those components in order to maximize my chances of closing a deal. I'm going to share with you some strategies for negotiating effectively, which in some industries is non-existent. There is no negotiation, and in some it's crucial. And we're not going to spend an inordinate amount of time on negotiating skills, but I will share with you some very simple-to-use strategies to make you a more effective negotiator. And of course, I will share with you the method that I use for closing. What you'll find is you don't need trick closes. You don't need fancy closes. In fact, when I tell you how I close business, the actual verbiage that I use, and which I will share with you on how to ask people for their business, you go, really? That's it? It's that simple? The fact is, it absolutely is that simple. It does not need to be difficult. And in fact, my goal in every sales process is to have my prospect at the very end of the process say to me, well, that sounds good, let's go. Now, unfortunately, in the real world, that's not always the way it works. As good as I am at doing steps number 1 through 5, even I, who have a good closing ratio, and I, who train other people how to sell, I can't get everybody to just say, sounds good, let's move forward. I actually have to ask them for their business. And I'm going to share with you exact verbiage that I recommend that you use in order to ask for their business. Okay, let's move on to the coaching portion of the show. And Maria, you said you had a selling situation that you'd like some coaching from us on.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I had the meeting face-to-face with the top banana and the second banana. The second banana brought me in, and when I got in there with the top banana and the second banana to look at the proposal that I had already sent them, turned out that the top banana had told me that, the amount of money that my proposal came in at was almost his entire training budget for 16 people in his department. And he also doesn't seem to value this coachee as much as the second banana did. And he wants to talk with her. We had a good
Wait, Maria, before you go on, who wants to talk to who? The top banana wants to talk to the person who you would be coaching?
Yes.
Okay, got it, okay.
Conversation with her. I assume he already had one, but he wants to talk to her, and maybe he wants to see how committed she is. In any case, the second banana left the room after 45 minutes, and as soon as he left, things got better between me and the top banana. We had a rapport. We talked about some personal things. There was a much greater rapport. And so he then went back to the idea of trying to find more money, not just slicing this this investment by 75% or 70%, but trying to find more money. So I'm supposed to call him on Friday to find out what he has discovered.
Okay. And are you looking for coaching on what to do on that call?
Yeah, because I have no idea what he's going to say. He might say, I want to bring this in at 3,000, which is one of the numbers he threw out. The thing came in at almost 12,000. He really wants it to be about 3,000. But he says he's going to look to see if he can get more money, and I don't know.
Good, okay. So just to let the rest of you know, I'm aware of this situation because Maria and I have spoken several times over the last 3 weeks, and we've discussed this situation pretty intimately. I helped her rewrite her proposal and have given her advice. So I don't know if you want to share the name of the company, but
I'll keep the company confidential.
Okay, sure. And so you were originally brought in by the second banana, though, right?
I was originally brought in for this project by the second banana.
Got it. Now, Maria has done work for this particular company in the past, so she does have some credibility there. And your question is, how do you handle the call on Friday? Is only the top banana going to be on the call?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you spoken to the person that you would be coaching?
On the phone, yes. I did a proficiency evaluation and needs assessment of her on the phone.
No, what I mean is, have you spoken to the person that you were going to be coaching since the top banana said that he was going to have a conversation with her?
Oh, no.
Okay, great. So before I give you my advice, does anybody else have any advice that they would recommend on what you think Maria might do on this call on Friday? Nope. Okay. So, Maria, here's what I would suggest. That sometime between now and Friday, you call the coachee, the person who you would be coaching if the top banana decides to come up with some money. And it's a woman, right?
Yeah, he wants me to call him Thursday at 4:30.
Right. No, but I'm talking about, what's the name of the woman?
Her name is Jenny.
Jenny, right, okay. So I would suggest you call Jenny. Now, Jenny knows that this is being discussed, right?
I assume she does.
Oh, you're not sure. So you haven't had contact with Jenny since you did the evaluation?
That's correct. No, I haven't had contact with her since I did the proficiency evaluation and needs assessment. Then I wrote a proposal. Then I had a meeting with these guys.
Did she know why she was being evaluated?
Oh, yeah. She knows that they want her to have coaching because her skills need improvement. Oh, she knows that.
Oh, okay, good. Perfect. Okay. So in my opinion, the smart thing for you to do first is to call Jenny and have a conversation with Jenny. Hey, Jenny, I was speaking with Top Banana. We're still looking at, getting you some of the assistance you need to be a better executive or whatever words you want to use, help you perform better, help you make more money or whatever it's going to do for her. And Top Banana told me that he was going to be chatting with you sometime before this coming Thursday. I was just wondering, have you had that conversation and how did it go? And I would try to feel out Jenny for how she feels about you working with her. Because if Jenny says, oh, yeah, he spoke to me, and I told him I really was interested, and blah, 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 you can then go back in your conversation on Thursday and say, hey, I did chat with Jenny, and she's really excited. She'd really very much like to work with me, and I'd love to work with her. And then I would simply say, what's happened since the last time we spoke? You mentioned that you were going to chat with Jenny also. What feedback did you get from her, and what did you come up with? What you want to do is just ask him a question which gets him to open up about his thoughts, because you left it with him. Maria's proposal was for substantially more money than this prospect thought it was going to be for. In fact, Maria's proposal was going to eat up most of his entire year-long budget for his entire team, not just this one person. So it's unlikely that he's going to give up his entire budget for just one person when he has an entire department that needs training. But I would want to know what are his thoughts. See, until you know what he's thinking, there's really not a heck of a lot that you can do. So you simply want to open it up with, so what's happened since we last spoke? Did you have your conversation with Jenny? How'd that go? What did you find from there? And what are you thinking now? And then you have to do the toughest thing for any salesperson, which is to shut up and listen. And based on what he says, you'll move forward from there. If he says, yeah, I talked to her, she really doesn't want to do it, and I've thought about it, and I can't spare a penny, then you're simply going to have to say, okay, thanks very much. If I can ever be of service, let me know. And by the way, who do you know that I should be speaking with, and ask for referrals? Because you're not going to convince somebody to do business with you if they've already decided not to, and they can't afford what you've got. If, however, he's got some concerns, if he says something like, well, yeah, I talked to Jenny, she's interested, and I really thought about it, and I think this would be very useful, it's just I can't come up with the money, then my question would simply be, great, what would work? I know that $11,750 or whatever the actual amount was is too much for you, but what would work? And then, as we discussed a couple of days ago, once he gives you the number that would work for him, you can either tell him, well, I can't do anything for that, or I can't give you everything that we talked about for that, but here's what I can do, and you can give him some other idea and hopefully move the sale forward.
Okay, I had already said to him in the meeting what number does work for you, and he was saying about 3,000. So,
right,
and he went away.
Since then, he's had time to think about it, and since then, he's hopefully spoken to Jenny, which is what he said he wanted to do. So he may have come up with, wow, you know, based on my conversation with Jenny, even though I only want to spend $3,000, I think I can come up with 5. Or he may go in the other direction and say, well, really, I don't know. I don't know that I should really, I can really come up with more than 2,000. Mark wants to know what's the rationale for Maria calling Jenny, and couldn't that backfire with the Beg Banana? That's why I was asking if she had ever spoken with Jenny, and since she's done an assessment on her, and she knows that Jenny needs the help, I see nothing wrong with calling Jenny just to get her opinion on it. Because what I want to do is I want to find out as much information, Mark, before Maria gets on the phone with the top banana, and Jenny might be able to provide Maria with some information that will help her close the big banana.
Well, I feel a little uneasy about talking to her. It feels like going behind his back, because when I originally did the the proficiency evaluation and needs assessment, I got a lot of information from her about her skills, but I also got some information about her attitude, which is that she's a little defensive. In the second banana, I never used that word, but the second banana did describe her as defensive. So she may be a little resistant to the coaching and the training. She may be.
All right, so look, all I'm giving you is what I would do. If you're uncomfortable contacting Jenny, don't call her.
You don't think that would disturb him?
I don't know that it would or wouldn't, but I don't suspect it would. First of all, he may not even know. I mean, you think Jenny's going to run to him and say, hey, by the way, Maria called me? I don't think so.
No, so you don't think I should tell him that I had that conversation with her?
I don't know that you necessarily should or shouldn't. I think you would be appropriate to whatever conversation you engage in with him. So it may be he says, I'm just not sure. I don't know if Jenny's going to be interested in doing this. Well, you could say, well, I actually called Jenny to just check in with her and see how she's doing and see if she was interested, and she expressed a great deal of interest.
Okay, so I shouldn't reveal it until I ask him what's happening.
I wouldn't, yeah. But I would want that information in my back pocket.
Okay.
That's okay. Does that help?
Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Great. Mark, how about you? You said you might have a selling situation that you'd like to talk about.
Well, what I have is 2 opportunities in the next couple of days with networking groups that I belong to present something I'm planning to do and to try to engage the people in the groups. One of them is ABA on Thursday, about this idea that I have for a pilot program that I'm hoping to start around March. I need 6 to 8 people, and the focus is on helping introverts become as effective and successful in the world as they can be. And this is something I've touched base with you about. There's a great book, number 19 on the New York Times bestseller nonfiction list this past week, by Susan Cain, called Quiet. the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking. It's something I'm very excited about. It really speaks to me, and it really differentiates the way of approaching that introverts approach the world and should be approached as compared with extroverts. And I'm thinking about that as you're telling us everything you're telling us, because I think there's some modification that needs to be done to really connect with people who are more introverted. Anyway, I'd like to stand up. I've actually cleared this with Ellen, for about 5 minutes on Thursday. I have another group that I belong to, BRP, that you've actually participated in tomorrow. And I just would like to put it out there in some kind of way that says, this is what I'm excited about. This is what I'm thinking about. This is a program I am planning to do. I need 6 to 8 people to get going on this. The price is very reasonable. And, whether it's people in the group or people I'd like to have some input about who might be interested in this. And so I guess, for me to wing it, I can do it, but I'm wondering what thoughts you have about how to present that.
So if I'm hearing you right, what you're looking for is 6 people to participate in a pilot program designed to help introverts perform better in the business world and the sales world, yes?
It's essentially. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's essentially it. Without them becoming extroverts, which is the whole point of.
So first of all, I think you're onto something. And when you first wrote me the email about that, I said, oh my God, I think there's a real market here. Because not everybody is an extrovert. Now, the truth is, in sales, there are certain characteristics which tend to make you more successful. An extrovert is more likely to succeed at the higher levels than an introvert, but that doesn't mean an introvert can't. And I think that setting up some type of program specifically for people like yourself, because you're a self-admitted introvert, I think would appeal to people, especially given that they'll be able to relate to you. For me to teach introverts how to sell, I think is not quite as useful as you doing it, because I'm clearly not an introvert.
Okay, but I'm not sure that my goal is to teach them how to sell.
Whatever.
But then again,
I'm just using that as an example.
I actually just started another great book by Daniel Pink, To Sell is Human, and basically he's saying that we all sell, and I think you would agree with that.
Absolutely.
But it's a matter of how we do it, and and as you yourself know very well, with certain kind of people, you adjust to who they are. You don't come across as strong and as powerful with people who are quieter. Okay, please.
Well, if I'm hearing you right, all you're looking for is some people who may be interested in participating in this program.
And basically, signing up for this program, four meetings, $100 for the totality is really what I'm thinking at this point. It's not about the money; it's about me getting practice and getting started on this.
So the way I would present that in the networking groups is I always like to start out something like that with, I used to have a problem, and my problem was I couldn't negotiate to save my life, or in this case would be I'm an introvert, and introverted people tend to be this, and this, or not as successful as extroverts, or this, whatever the real situation is. And what I've discovered is there are techniques that extroverts do naturally that introverts don't, but can be learned. Not to turn them into extroverts, but to help them succeed while being the person that they actually are. It makes them more comfortable, it makes them more confident, or whatever else the benefits are going to be. And then just simply say, I'm sorry?
But it's focusing on the benefits, which is really what you're emphasizing.
What I'm going to share with them in this project is blah, 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 and what they're going to get from that is blah, 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 blah. So the first one will be the features. What I'm going to share with them is this, and what the benefits are is this. Now, here's the great thing. Because this is a brand new program, I'm not looking to make a lot of money out of it. In fact, I'm only charging $100 for 4 sessions. So it's incredibly cost effective. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's specifically designed for introverted people, and it's going to be led by an introvert, me. So what I'm looking for is, who do you know that might be interested that I could speak with?
Can you do it for me, Jeff? Can you do it for me? Oh, please.
Well, certainly. Look, my suggestion would be, is Thursday the first meeting where you're going to be talking about that?
Tomorrow will be.
Well, I can't do it tomorrow for you because I'm not coming to whatever meeting that is.
I don't really want you to do it for me, obviously. But
look, on Thursday, certainly, here's what you can do, Mark. First of all, you can write out what you think you just heard me say and send it to me, and I will be glad to send it back to you. And if you want to do that tonight so that you're ready for tomorrow, I'll be, at my computer, on and off half the night. And every time I hear a couple of emails come in, I do check. And so I will get it back to you before I go to bed, certainly.
But I probably won't. But I probably won't do that.
Okay. Well,
Because
in terms of Thursday, certainly, if you start describing it and you feel yourself sinking, just look at me and say, "Hey, Jeff, help me out here."
That
and you know
would be
I'm.
great.
Oh, come on!
That
You know
would
I'm
be
happy
cool.
to jump in.
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem is once you jump in, I have to shut you up.
And that is not an easy thing to do, my friend, as you well know. And for those of you who don't know, I think I shared that, but Mark and I are in a networking group together that meets every other Thursday, and I am tough to shut up. There's no doubt about it. Does that help at all, Mark?
It does. It does.
All
And,
right.
and
Cool.
I'm sure it'll be fine. And part of what this is about for me is I have to do it my way. I have to do it in a way that feels right for me. And I think that's the message that I want to give to the people who are going to be attracted to this. That,
I think you're right. Just be
that
authentic.
we don't always have to feel inadequate and inferior because we're not extroverts. In fact, there are things that we bring to the table that enhance organizations and relationships. And I know I don't want to take time away from anybody else, but of the 3 things that you mentioned for that make the best salespeople, at least 2 of them are things that introverts excel at: best question askers and best listeners. I have to learn how to be a better storyteller.
Well, look, here's the thing.
Yeah.
An introvert has a distinct advantage in one way when it comes to selling because,
Yeah, we can listen.
it's not, yes, that too. But what I mean is, when a guy like me walks into the room, I have to consciously tone it down because I come across
Right.
as assertive and, fast talker and all those things. And I have to make a conscious effort to not be who I naturally am
Right.
while still being authentic with people so that I don't turn people off because they think I'm going to talk them into something. An
Right.
introvert like yourself, if you walk into the room, my guard is automatically down because I don't think you're going to try to talk me into anything. Or
Right.
even if you're going to try, I don't think you're going to be able to because that's not the way you come across. So
Right.
it's actually a distinct advantage. So I think if you just share authentically about your own experience as an
Exactly.
introvert,
Yeah.
why you've put together this program and who you're looking to help, what they're going to benefit by, I think you should fill that up. And of course, I'm
Okay.
happy to help you. All right?
Great. Thanks, Jeff.
Cool. My pleasure.
Good.
Michaela, you said you had one also.
Well, I always have things going since I'm
Good.
moving into more salesy role, and I've never been officially doing sales. So I know I shared with you a week ago or 2 weeks ago a little bit about my account that I'm supposed to take over, supposed to resuscitate, supposed to revive, and so forth. This used to be a great opportunity. Someone took over, someone lied to the client, the relation started to dwindle. Right now, the guy that you asked me to recommend, you recommended I reach out and invite to lunch. I can't because my bigger boss said he was going to reach out to him, so that's gone. So I reached out to another person that I knew that he actually sent another RFP in, but he sent it to the previous salesperson that was here. There were a couple of days when of chaos after he left, and then I picked up on his emails and so forth, so I started following up. That was back in the, I followed up. I hate cold calling, whether it's email or phone. Probably on phone it's even worse. Talking about introverts. Yeah, absolutely abhor that. So I actually gather up my courage and I reached out to this guy saying, okay, this guy is no longer here. I used to work with him and the other person, and I know there was an RFP coming in. Would you like to meet? And he got back to me. He said, well, that ship had sailed long ago. He left voicemails and so forth and emails, and let's touch base in the next quarter and see if there are any other changes in your company. Now, it was nice of him. He replied back, but I hated the kind of the being put off until, next quarter. I replied to him today, thanking him for his kind note, so forth, and, saying that it's too bad what happened, and that obviously he didn't really offer to meet up with me, but still said that if he has a few minutes, I'd love to introduce myself in person. I have no idea at this point what else to do.
Well, I'm not sure that there's anything else you can do to actually cause a meeting right now, especially since, how were you communicating with him? Was that via email or were you talking to him on the phone?
Email.
Okay. So, he's already told you clearly, straight out, that you cannot meet with him this quarter. So what I would do, here's a couple of options. One is you can send him back an email and say, look, I understand there's nothing right now. I'd love to at least just take 5 minutes to introduce myself, so that at least you get your foot in the door, have a brief introduction. I think I recommended that you offer to take him to lunch. Did you try that?
That was someone else that worked for him. I can't because, again, my boss chose. He told me he was going to take care of, contact him, so I would take the other guy.
So I'm sorry, the guy who will not meet with you until next quarter is the guy that your boss does not want you to take out to lunch, is that right?
No, it's the one that I have never met. The other one, at least I met, and I know we connected, so I could have a shot there.
Right, but well, what about this other guy who won't meet with you till next quarter? Have you asked him out to lunch?
I didn't ask him to lunch. I asked him to meet. In my previous email, I believe I might have asked him to lunch or whatever it was. But now, I don't know.
Okay, so that would be my suggestion at this point, since the guy had come right out and said, look, the ship has sailed, there's nothing more we can do right now, let's talk next quarter. I would get back to him and say, hey, look, I completely understand, sorry we missed that ship, and I'm fine with getting together next quarter to talk about, other opportunities, but in the meantime, can I buy you lunch next week or the week after, whenever it is, just so we can start to get to know each other? And see what he says. What's the worst that happens? Look, I got to tell you, I'll let just about anybody buy me lunch. Just about anybody. In fact, often at the end of a speech, when I go to networking groups or something like that, I'll say, look, anybody who wants to buy me breakfast, I'll let you pick my brain for an hour. Because if you're willing to buy me a $15 omelet, I'm willing to give you some advice. So almost everybody likes a free lunch. Offer to take him to lunch. If he won't agree to that, then all you can do is say, great, I'm going to contact you in, when's the next quarter, March, the mid-March to set something up for April. And then what I would do is I would try to drip market to him. Drip market. I would try to diligently search for anything I could find that would help him. It's a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Help him do his job better. So what's his title? What job does he do? I don't need his name, but what's his title?
Market research manager, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, what kind of manager?
Market research manager.
Market research manager. Good. So you know the job of a market research manager. I mean, you know what they do, what their challenges are. What I would be doing is looking for anything in any of the publications you read, any of the trade journals, anything at all, anything you can find online that may be an article that will help make his life easier, help him do his job better. And I would simply take those, as I find them, I would print them out, stick them in an envelope, put a little sticky note on it, a Post-it, saying, hey, I came across this, thought it might be of interest to you, thought it might be of value to you, thought it might help you, blah, 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 and just sign your name. With nothing about, I'm looking forward to getting together, with nothing about selling or an RFP or anything like that. Simply, you're sending him something that's of value to him. And if you do that several times over the next couple of months, when you do call him up in March to set that appointment for April, he should be receptive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I call drip marketing. That's what I would be doing. Does that help at all?
Yes, I already replied to him today, so I guess about the lunch, I'll have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, so wait till Friday or Monday and just say, a thought popped into my head today. I know we're not going to get together till next quarter to talk about business, but how about if I just buy you lunch next week? Something like that. Okay? Give that a try and let me know how it goes. We're kind of over time a little bit, but Greg, you said you might have something that you wanted to chat about. Do you?
Yeah, all right. So first of all, as I've told you, I'm young, I guess. At least as far as my the business that I'm in. Everyone I deal with is, I'm 25. Everyone I deal with is probably 35 and up. So when I go out on sales calls, people really just don't want to deal with me to begin with. That's just like an overall concern. But aside from that, basically someone I deal with is I'll go out and I'll give my spiel or something, because I'll knock on doors. And I'll do my thing. And if I'm lucky enough to actually talk to someone and I find out that they're interested in one of our lines, because we have about 15 different lines, So, you know, I mark it down in my book, hey, they were interested in this, this, and this. I just don't really know what to do next with that. Do I call them up, or do I mail them something? Do I email them? Do I just drop by again in a week, a month? I just don't know the proper follow-up just to actually make these things happen. That's pretty much where I'm at right now, because all I do is just these little drop-bys maybe once a week. You know, I still do inside sales and tech support. So right now what my dad has me doing is just once a week getting out there. And that's my only time really of getting this outside sales experience.
Good. So I'm going to give you a couple of thoughts, and then we'll call it a night. The first thing is I want you to completely get out of your mind that you're young. Not that I don't want you to think that you're a young person, but that I want you to get rid of the mindset, you're young, they're older, so you've got no credibility. Because when you say to me, well, I'm young, I'm 25 and they're 35 and up, what I'm hearing is, well, they have a more important title, they have more money, they drive a nicer car, they're decision makers, I'm just some kid. So, you know, 10 years ago, you were just some kid. But 25 is not some kid. You're a quarter of a century old, and you're working for a well-established company. Not only that, you are part of the family that owns the company. So as far as I'm concerned, you own the company. Now, I know Dad owns the company, but it's your family. I mean, don't you consider this to a certain extent your business?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you should. I'm not suggesting that you own the company outright and that all the profits should go into your pocket. Your dad might have something to say about that, but I want you to be of the mindset, this company is my company, and walk in with confidence. Look, just because you're 25 doesn't mean you know any less than they do, although they may have more experience. It doesn't mean you're worth any less than they are, because you absolutely are not worth less. And you need to get rid of, and by the way, this is a very common perception of younger sales representatives. The people older than me know more, they're more important, they have better titles, all that stuff. I want you to treat them like equals. I don't care how much money they have, what kind of car they're driving, what kind of business they own or anything else. I want you to start thinking of them as equals. And one of the ways you'll be able to do that is by coming from, I'm here to help them make money. Because that is what you're trying to do, right? You want them to distribute your products, which helps them make more money, and of course it helps you make money too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I want you to first shift your mindset. Now, in terms of how do you move things forward, just make clear for me, because I want to make sure that I'm on the same page with you. You want them to stock your merchandise or to recommend your merchandise as opposed to somebody else's, yes? Greg, you still there?
Yeah, sorry, I just have to mute and unmute occasionally just so we don't get any feedback. But yeah, basically the game plan is to get either the one group of people to stock our items or to get the guy next in line to talk to the guy who stocks our items and say, hey, we want you to stock Wrath items because we like it.
Right. So there needs to be some type of a, when you go in and talk to them, I need to know a little bit more, and maybe we'll have to take this conversation offline, and you're welcome to call me anytime between now and 2 weeks from now, and I'm happy to give you my best advice. But I need to know more about how the conversation goes when you actually are there and talking to them. But next time and the time after and actually every other session, I'll be going over this over and over again, that you always want to move the process forward. In fact, if you look towards the bottom of your screen, it says that. Always be looking at what you have to do to move the process forward. So maybe it's you need to set another appointment for a week from now or a month from now to come back and, you know, deliver a sample or do a training session or something like that. I worked with another company similar to yours, different products, but it's similar to yours, that does the very similar thing. That, you know, they're a cutting tools company, so they want these stores that contractors shop at to sell their cutting tools as opposed to somebody else's. And it's going to be about the relationship. It's going to be also about the value that the buyer, probably the store owner or somebody who works for the store owner, sees in doing business with you. It's going to be about how much profit they can make, how happier they're going to make their customers, and what kind of support they're going to get from you. So it's going to be incumbent upon you in that initial meeting to find out what is important, how do they do things now, and to tell them how you can do them better, and then set some kind of a meeting or a date to do the next step. We're going to go into this way more in depth when we talk about the sales process, which we're going to devote the entire next session to. I hope I gave you something of value here, and I know it wasn't very much, but I really do encourage you to call me offline, and we'll have a further conversation about it. And I know that my friend Maria will attest to, I'm absolutely positively available for you guys to call me in between sessions. Maria and I probably spent, I don't know, close to 3 hours between the last session and now talking about various different situations she's working on, me offering guidance, and I'm happy to do that with any of you. So, Greg, you're certainly welcome to call me. You don't need to make an appointment. If I can't talk to you when you call, I'll call you back. Or if I'm not here, just leave a message. Or you can certainly send me an email and let me know some times you're available, and I'll be happy to get back to you with that. At this point, we're a little bit over once again, and I apologize for that, but I hope you all got tremendous value. Next time, we're going to delve deeply into the actual conversational sales process. I'm going to start to give you some verbiage that you can use for opening a meeting, what kind of questions I think you need to be asking, and I'm going to give you what I believe you probably signed up for in the first place. Until then, please do contact me if there's anything I can do for you. As always, I honor and appreciate the time and attention you've given me tonight. I consider it a blessing, and I will speak to you all in 2 weeks. Have a great night and a great 2 weeks.
All right, thank you,
Bye,
Jeff.
guys. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
So-